Well, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Christianthen, and today I have a very special returning guest for you. Her name is Abbie Mirata. Abbie Mirata is a VP of Culture and People and Culture at ApostleTech, and Abbie is a returning guest. She actually appeared early on episode number 16, where we geeked out about CRM, because I think I found my soulmate when it comes to CRM and being obsessed with CRM. And if you guys are not drinking the Kool-Aid, then you guys gotta go and listen to the episode number 16 with Abbie, and you'll understand why we're both obsessed with it. Now, besides being obsessed with all things CRM, Abbie also runs a nonprofit. It's called Kyndly. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the nonprofit, what she's doing, and her mission. So Abbie, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to have you back on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back. I always love seeing your face. So much fun. And yes, very few people I can relate to and just talk for an hour about CRM besides you, and actually is enjoying the conversation. Most people, it's a dirty word.
Yes, it's like, what are you talking about? I used to hate CRM until I think you find the right one that is like, oh my gosh, it actually helps me sell homes. But anyway, let's not even go there because we're going to get carried away with CRM talk. So obviously you've been with ApostleTech, and now you started your new nonprofit. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are, and why did you start this nonprofit?
Sure, absolutely. So, I think we all, especially those of us who come from the corporate world, there's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of pieces that come with dealing with different personalities and as you want to grow and change. And I loved my organization prior to ApostleTech, and I love ApostleTech, but I think there was this piece of me that was seeing behaviors and just wanting to do more and impact the world through empathy and compassion. And I saw a lot of my employees and my executives who didn't necessarily know how to kind of take a step back, put yourself in someone else's shoes, and handle situations in a way that was going to either really give you a win-win or just kind of get you to the next level. And we let our emotions take over. Mm-hmm. And so I did a lot of soul searching, so to speak, for a year. And I spent a lot of time in self-development and training and workshops all around joy and compassion and empathy, and was really surprised how in focusing on that self-development within myself allowed me to do a better job as a leader, allowed me to take care of my customers better, and actually allowed me to sell more, so to speak, and just do better business. And so I wanted to help everyday people learn those skills. And that's really how Kyndly was born, because there's a lot of great books and a lot of, people you can go see speak. But as far as a resource or an organization that helps the average Joe and Jane hold themselves actually accountable to those behaviors and having a more fulfilled life, there weren't a lot of resources out there like that. And so I created Kyndly to do that. And then Kyndly's mission and what we do from our workshops and our trainings and our events is to actually go into youth organizations and schools and start teaching our young people these tools as actual skill sets. So they're not trying to learn them when they're older, like us cynical old folks, and change, but they're actually going into the business world with these skill sets already developed.
Love that. And I think especially in new home sales, sometimes we can be, because if you think about somebody buying a new home, I mean, it's such a huge thing in their life, right? It should be very, very joyous occasion. And I think sometimes as new home sales reps, we get so bogged down by the day-to-day that we forget that this should be a joyous occasion. and we should celebrate, and we should make this as joyful as possible for our buyers. And I think, obviously, any sales profession is one of the most challenging jobs out there. I don't think salespeople get enough credit for what we do. And I think if you're not having fun at work, if you're not embracing this idea of being joyful every single day, customers can feel it. And so when I heard about this topic, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a perfect topic, especially as we're starting 2020, we're starting new decade. This is something that I want you guys to embrace, the idea of how to bring more joy into your everyday life. And so, Abbie, you talk about joy joints. So if you can talk to us about what the heck is joy joints, and if you can take us through the 5 exercises that we can use to strengthen our joy joints, because I think everyone needs more joy in their life.
Absolutely. Yes. So joy joints. So it's really, just an analogy. It's similar to our muscles, right? So when I talk about the 5 exercises to strengthen our joy joints, when we think about a healthy body and a healthy mind, it's how we eat. It's the exercises we do to keep up this foundation that is us, so that we can be healthy and we can live long and we can have energy. And so that's really, a joy joint is kind of the mental version of that. And it's those things inside us that, fortunately, unfortunately, however we are created as humans, aren't always our first reaction or something we can easily access. Sometimes our first reaction is to be defensive and self-protective and to react to things. And so we have to strengthen our joy joint so that that becomes our habit, and keeping joy as kind of a value and a guiding light in all of the decisions that we make in all of our interactions. So the 5 ways to strengthen your joy joints. The first one is a cleanse. And a lot of times we talk about digital cleanse at this point in time in 2020. We're really paying attention to what we consume, what we look at, the type of television we watch, the type of accounts we follow on social media. And is, as much as we think there's so much of it that's harmless, what's going on in the back of our head and what neurons are being affected. And we only have so much mental space. And so you want to be very intentional about what you're putting into that mental space, and that you're not crowding it with things that aren't necessary or that are negative. And I think you just made a great point that goes along with, to me, cleanse is we do kind of get into our own heads in new home sales. And the thing is it becomes old hat to us. So It's the same thing every day. We've heard the objections, we've dealt with the issues, we know how a house is built. And we do kind of forget that our customer, to them, this is brand new, or they've never done it before. Or every time you purchase a home, typically it's because of a different stage of your life. So even if you've done this twice before, there's all new reasons and all new things now. Yep. And so making sure that we're highly aware of what we're consuming and the words, right? So if we're constantly looking at reports and talking about our customers in a way that they're, I always like to, the word prospect just like makes me, that we call our customers prospects, like we're panning for gold, or we say things like specs, or we call them by lot numbers. And so just kind of being mindful of how we're taking information in to ensure that we're not putting that back out into the world. So that's kind of the first one, is to cleanse and to get rid of as much negativity that we can, that we're consuming, so that we're always in a more positive mindset when we're engaging with other people.
I love that one. So if you guys know anything about me, so I don't watch any news. Like if you'll ask me about current events, I'm like, unless my husband tells me that like something is going on, because he's not on social media other than LinkedIn and Twitter. And like, obviously Twitter is kind of like all about the news. Like he'll always tell me like, oh, this is happening. Have you heard about this? And I'm like, Sorry. And it's not to be clueless, because obviously like I, as an American citizen, especially as an immigrant, I take my right to vote very, very seriously. And so I make sure that I do spend the time to figure out like, okay, who's the candidate? What do they stand for? I really go into that. But as far as day-to-day news, especially with what's been happening, it's all about attention grabbing and keeping your attention and keeping you sucked in as long as possible. And what better way to do it, unfortunately, than with all the negative things that are happening. So that's one thing that I tune out completely. I don't watch news. So it's so weird when you're staying at a hotel or somewhere and in the lobby, 24/7 they have the news. Or if you go to somebody's house and suddenly I notice like, oh wow, they have CNN in the background or Fox News in the background just running the whole time. And it's so, so bizarre to me now, because that's one thing I made a conscious decision, is to not watch the news because of the way I felt it was affecting me. And to me, it's very important to protect that positive state of mind. Now, I'm not quite to the point where I'm willing to give up my reality TV. So if you, I love Real Housewives of Orange County, Beverly Hills. Those are the two I watch. And, every time I say like, oh my God, I hate how they're fighting. I just want to see them have fun, get drunk, and like be happy, and they're like catty, catty, catty. But I've been watching the OC since like the first episode day one. So I'm like so invested in it that like, as much as I would love to give it up, I just can't bring myself to give it up. And then the other one's Vanderpump Rules. But, I guess sometimes you just have to like be like, okay, I understand this is like my little time to indulge myself into a little craziness, and not take it seriously. But that's where I draw the line. So
you're good as long as you're aware of it, right? You're self-aware and you're being intentional. I'm the same way with the news, and it's the same thing. When I want information, I'm very specific about where I go to research and find that information, and not just kind of take in. I get people who ask me all the time, did you see that video or that meme on social media? And I'm like, no, I didn't, and I don't want to. And like I said, it does feel harmless, and I'm not being judgmental. Sometimes it can come across that way. But when you're constantly bringing in, the memes and the videos that we chuckle at, but really at the core of it, it's someone getting hurt or making fun of someone, we're just kind of desensitizing ourselves so that when we see that behavior out in the world, we're not as apt to want to stop it or say something, because that's normal. That's what we see every day, and it's perfectly acceptable in our society. So that's why I suggest a cleanse. And typically I'm like, try it for a week and then just see how you feel and what you want to put back. And there's going to be a lot of things that you don't miss. You don't even realize you're not seeing them anymore.
Okay, I love that. So you guys try out the cleanse for a week. Maybe pick one thing. Maybe it's a reality TV. Maybe it's news. Maybe it's that toxic friend. Whatever it is in your life, give it a try. All right, so that's number one. What's the second exercise that we can do?
So the second exercise that you can do is to stretch. So this one can be fun. It can be hard. And I like to say what we're doing is we're stretching. So we all have those people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis that just maybe aren't our favorite people. Maybe it's a tough manager. Maybe there's a bully at work. Maybe it's a customer who's like constantly in our face and we never can do anything right and they're yelling at us. Mm-hmm. And not only does that put us in a negative space in our own mental, so that's hard, but it puts us in a bad mood. It makes us want to go home. And so many of us, especially in our industry, we work a lot. We're on a lot all weekend long. And so the few precious hours that you have with your family and your friends at night, nobody wants to use them just venting and complaining, because you're carrying all of that stress from the day. So what I like to do is stretch and find the good in that person. So sit down and think about that person and find a couple of things that are good. And if you work at it, you can do it. And I'll give you an example of something so silly, but it could be that they're a really great dresser. I mean, honestly, if that's stretching, like you can't find anything else good, but they are put together all the time, then when you are engaging with that person, that's what I want you to be thinking about. Like, I love their outfits. Where do they buy their shoes? Like, they always look so put together. And have those positive things about that person going through your head to kind of minimize the frustration and anger they're bringing out to you. Mm-hmm. And then once you're done, simply look them in the eye and say, thank you so much for your feedback or whatever, that meeting. By the way, I meant to tell you, I loved your shoes yesterday. And then walk away. Number one is you've dealt with that stress and you've kept it positive and you can kind of let it go easier. And number two, you will completely take them off guard by like out of the blue coming up with something positive to share with them.
Love that. Love that idea. So that's not always easy, right? I mean, if you think about that, that customer that just drives you crazy, and that like every time they call you or you get an email, you're like cringe almost. But I think one thing you can always think about is like, I'm so thankful for this customer because without them, I wouldn't be able to, provide for my family or whatever it may be. So it can be simple as that. If you really can't find any any
No,
characteristics in them, which
gratitude is a great way to go for all of these things.
yes, definitely. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. So always think about, how like I hate when people say like, all customers are liars, this or that, because without the customer, we really don't have anything. So I always try to remember that the customer is the most important person, and I have to do whatever it takes to make their experience the best experience I can. I am the professional, even if they're acting not professionally. It's my job and my responsibility to stay a professional in this relationship. So, sometimes you just have to let it slide, but obviously also know where to draw a line. Like if you're truly being abused by somebody, like how do you deal with
Yeah.
that? Right?
No, absolutely. And I think that that actually leads really well into the next exercise and the group workout and asking for help. But if you really are being abused, you should never, ever take that. You need to end the conversation. You need to, but you don't, I think the key to that is the whole concept of two wrongs don't make a right. So you don't need to spew hatred back. But you can cut it off and not let someone treat you that way. And then you need to, especially if it's a customer situation, you need to engage help. You need to not just feel like you're going to internalize this and you're not going to deal with this customer anymore and not go tell people, so that we can create some sort of better environment for all parties involved. So yeah, you definitely don't want to take abuse, but it doesn't mean you have to kind of put that same energy back out in the air.
Yes.
So then that's the next one. Is it's a group workout and it's asking for help. And we need to do both. We need to give to others and we need to assist and we need to help. And that's the easy thing for all of us to do. We love to help people. And why? So when you help people, Anya, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like it's I think it's similar to like gift giving versus gift receiving. Like you always feel much happier when you give a gift than you receive a gift. So I think it's very similar when you help somebody versus getting help. You feel like a superhero. You feel like, I am saving the day and I'm changing somebody's life, hopefully, even if it's something little.
Absolutely. I feel that same way too. So when you think about asking for help, rather than relating that to being weak or, not good enough, what you're actually doing is all of those things you just described that you feel, you're giving that gift to someone else. When you ask someone else for help, you are allowing them to be the superhero and to feel all of those amazing feelings of empowerment and giving to others. And so that's what asking for help really is. So not only do we get something when we ask for help because we really need it, but we're giving something to someone else. And so I always tell people in your day, I like to actually with my clients say, you're not allowed to give help to anyone until you asked for help. And it could be something super, super simple that you're asking for help. But we need to not take everything on to our shoulders, and we need to learn to collaborate. And sometimes asking for help is a coworker, a manager, a family member. Sometimes it is our customer. but it's this concept of collaborating and giving and taking together that creates a phenomenal, not just customer experience, but employee experience as well. And it's a really great way to kind of just strengthen that cadence of making that a habit, and making sure that we are asking and we aren't taking too much on.
So the perfect example that I can think of is, I think first-time moms. Like first-time moms, I think have really, really hard time accepting help, right? I don't know if you noticed that with your friends, but with my friends and even with myself, I remember when I had my boys, if somebody would come over and be like, hey, can I do your dishes? And I'd be like, oh my God, like, no way you're gonna do my dishes. And now I'm thinking like, heck yeah, please do my dishes, let, let me lay down and kick my feet up while you do my dishes. And the other day I went over to my friend's house. She just recently had a baby, and I put down her Christmas tree, like all the decorations and everything, because it was still up. And she's like trying to help me. I'm like, no, just lay down and stay down. I want you, I'm here. I want to help, just give me that satisfaction of like helping you. So I think for some people it can be difficult to accept help, right? Because maybe it's like relinquishing a sense of control almost.
Absolutely. And I think it's just been drilled into us over years and years and years that we are supposed to be independent and we can handle things. And again, that asking for help is like a sign of weakness, or that you can't handle everything that's going on. And we don't want to portray that. And I think especially we're in a world today that through work and technology and everything else, we are kind of expected to have these superpowers. Like you see that portrayed out in the business world and social media, that there are super moms, right, who can do it all, or this way. And so we don't want to ask for help, but you have to, because it's like the only way you're gonna get through life. And again, who doesn't want to feel like a superhero? So why not give that to someone else by asking them for help?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay. I love that one. That's something that I didn't think about. It's not like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, but it does. If you think about it like as a gift giving situation, it totally makes sense. So I love that one. Okay. And so what's the number 4 way that we can strengthen those joy joints?
So that's lifting weights. And really, that's simply about lifting the weight off your shoulders and throwing it away and letting it go. And this is really hard, and it takes commitment and work to make as a habit. But it's the concept that things are happening around us all the time. And we talk about and we say things like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. And we have to change the way that we perceive that. Nothing happens to you, things happen around you. And then how you internalize that is 100% your choice. And so when you're in situations, and let's give examples that are like more every day, but say you are in the break room or in a coffee shop and you're trying to get some work done and you want quiet and you want a place to like focus, and there's people around you who are gossiping really loudly or being rude or making a bunch of noise or sitting there. And the kind of our first reaction is to look at someone and give them a dirty look or like make a snide comment. And it's not always fair. Like you're either in that space because it's supposed to be a space for you to do those things. And so this person is maybe not following the rules of etiquette. But you have a choice right now. You can engage and escalate conflict and make it bad for everyone. Or you can say, yeah, it's not fair, but I can control myself. And I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to get up and leave. And I'm going to go find a different quiet space. And that's hard because it's not fair, or it's not the way it's supposed to be. Or if we're in a space that people are supposed to be respecting, the quietness or the focus, then you want to say something to those people. But that's your choice. And that's where that joy joint and building that comes in. And we do, again, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, the more that in the moment you can simply breathe and let things go and move on, put yourself in someone else's shoes, empathy and compassion, just the better you're going to feel the rest of the day, because you're not going to be sitting there thinking about that story. You're not going to want to gossip and retell it later. And you're just going to be able to be lighter and accomplish more because you've just let things go.
Yes. So I can think of like a couple of perfect things. So I hope my mother-in-law does not listen to this, but totally going to throw her under the bus on this one. So I remember we were walking through, like, can't remember, like we were either in the department store or somewhere, like, and we were going through a door, and she like held the door for somebody and they didn't say thank you. And she was like, well, you're welcome. And I was like, and I thought to myself, like, was this really necessary? You know, like, is it designed to make you feel better, to make them feel bad? Like, what's the point there? And when I kind of brought it up to her, she said, well, they should be saying thank you because that's the right thing to do. And I said, well, maybe it is the right thing to do, but you shouldn't expect it. You shouldn't hold the door for somebody just to expect to hear that. Yeah, maybe that's the right thing to do, but if they didn't do it, it's not your place to make that comment. Like, it doesn't really make anything better. If anything, it just brings negativity. And so I just remember that's really sticking in my mind.
No, that's a perfect example. And those are the kind of the expectations we put on ourselves and the people around us, and managing those expectations, and really just doing something for the sheer fact that it's the right thing to do and you feel good. You feel good helping someone regardless of how they internalize that help. And again, maybe that person wasn't being rude. Maybe that person was in a hurry or off to deal with something or just got bad news or whatever the case may be, and they weren't focused, and it was not intentional at all to not say thank you. They were just in a zone. And so you just never know.
Yeah. So I think always, I think especially with social media, I'm always extra sensitive to like certain comments. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I had a dilemma where I watched a video of somebody that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and they've been doing a great job with their videos and they've been very consistent. But one thing I've noticed is that when they shoot their videos, they're using their cell phone, and instead of flipping it to the other side, like they're doing it in a selfie mode, and instead of looking at the camera to make an eye contact with the viewer, they're looking at themselves. So in the video, it looks like they're looking on the side. And so my first instinct was to reach out to them in the comment and to say like, hey, you've been doing such a great job with your videos, but try this. And then as I started typing, I was like, is this necessary? Like, even though it's coming from a place where I'm trying to help them or to make it better, I was like, how are they going to take that? Is that gonna more upset them than be perceived as like I'm trying to help, even though I'm coming from a place of like trying to help them? So I decided to delete it and not say anything, because I felt like, you know what, it wasn't my place. Maybe if it's in person, that would be a different story. I can talk to them about making it better or something. But I was like, wow, I don't want to reach out because I don't know how I would perceive it if somebody was like, hey, this is great, but here's my 2 cents. So, so it's like, I think I'm always conscious about, is it necessary?
No, absolutely. And you're like, I feel like you're queuing me up, right, to go into the next each time. It's perfect. And I promise we didn't practice this. But that actually leads into the last one, which is balance. And I think that you probably were coming from a place to help this person, right? Because you've been through this, you've been doing this, and you've learned all of these things, and you've made mistakes, and you want to help other people better themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think what's interesting about social media is that whole concept of the comments. And we don't think about, we just want to say our opinion or give something. And what we're not thinking about is that 1,000 other people can see that. And so what does that do? But that doesn't mean that maybe a direct message or like, hey, I love watching your stuff. This is how it makes me feel. And when I first started, here's some of the different types of feedback I got. And so as you continue to make videos, if I can help you, or, you know, one thing that I learned the hard way was to make sure I'm looking at the camera and not at myself. And send that in a direct message and try to build a relationship that way. So it's just finding the balance, because we shouldn't all just sit back, and people who want to grow want that feedback, especially from other people they find credible or that they look up to. So that's striking that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of the last of exercise to strengthen your joy joints is balance. And in balance, like the example I gave, and then balance across the board in everything that we do, and trying to bring these skills to the forefront and live with them, but make it sustainable and not go overboard or not alienate all of our friends. So, you know, my story with that is it's actually been a really hard journey personally to come through this, what I call a joy journey, and really focus in on empathy and compassion and how I want to be and how I want to show up, because I've taken these exercises seriously, and that can seem like a real 180 change to the people around me. And so where I used to hang out and gossip or make that snide remark in a group chat about the crazy mom on the PTA or, you know, those types of things, it was kind of like an abrupt stop. And then my friends felt like I was judging them because I didn't want to participate. And I also didn't strike the balance of talking to people and saying, here's where I'm trying to change. Mm-hmm. And I hope that it doesn't come across this way, and I hope that you support me through it. But I'm not going to sit at the water cooler and gossip. And I know that we may have a difficult customer, but it's not helping to sit and talk to each other and make fun of them or give them a rude nickname, which I will openly admit when I was selling homes, we used to do.
I think we all have.
Yeah. So it's finding the balance of being able to release things and say things and kind of get that part of you out without compromising your value of joy or going overboard, and communicating and knowing, you know, you want to be with your friends or you want to be involved in this at work, but yet you're still not going to, you have a line that you're not going to cross or participate in certain types of conversations or activities. And so it's just finding that balance in between all of those things.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. It's almost makes me think of when somebody finds Jesus. Like, you know, you have a friend that suddenly like embraces religion or like comes into their Jesus moment, and it changes the relationship because now they're all like on this pedestal and that's how they're acting. And it can be tricky during that transition until they kind of realize that like, okay, just because I found Jesus doesn't mean they did. And, you know, I shouldn't be judging other people. So I think when you do embrace this idea of joy, similarly, you can begin to like judge other people and notice when people are not practicing the same joy as you are practicing. So you just have to be cognizant of that and remember that not everyone is drinking the Kool-Aid. So
absolutely, and they don't have to. And I will say that has been growing pains for me in my personal life, and then when you think about bringing it to work, because I'm super excited, just like if someone finds religion, or almost to I don't know if I work with a lot of amazing women who do network marketing, but it's like when your friend starts a network marketing and it's like it feels like they've joined a cult and that's all that they talk about. You know, anyone who's going through that transition or find something that makes them feel good, and I would come across as preachy or as someone who feels like I'm better, and I had to be brought down from that, and you do, and you have to find the balance between living who you want to be but realizing, especially in something like what I'm so passionate about with joy and compassion and empathy, that you don't lose the fact that what you're teaching is that not everybody has to come from the same place or be this way and understanding their stories. And so you have to be perfectly okay with people being who they are and just accept it without trying to change them. So
Yes.
it can be tricky.
Yes, I love that. So it can be tricky. So I don't know what what word of advice. So if you guys are embracing this idea, just remember not to judge. I guess that's the first step. So and Abbie was very gracious to provide us with a synopsis of the 5 exercises. So if you guys want to download a copy, I think it's great to have it next to your desk or whatever you're sitting, so that if you're starting to feel negative, or maybe you're feeling like you're not being as joyful as you'd like to be, pick one of those exercises, see what you can apply in that moment to try and make a situation better. So I'm going to provide a cheat sheet with the 5 exercises, and you can find that under aniachrysanthemum.com/075 download. Again, it's aniachrysanthemum.com/075 download. Can you believe it's 75th episode? You
No,
came
I know,
from
that's what I was just thinking in my head too, because you said
75. That's so crazy.
earlier.
You were on like early.
That's crazy, and it's amazing. Congratulations. You're doing such a phenomenal job, and you bring so much joy to so many people to help them learn and grow and get better. It's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Abbie, where can we find you if people want to connect with you to learn more about the nonprofit, to learn more about what you're doing, maybe attend any of the seminars or workshops, what you're teaching? How can we connect with you?
Sure. So you can always connect with me through ApostleTech. On LinkedIn and through my website, you can find all my other social media, and it's just abbiemirata.com. And you'll be able to find me in all the places that you can find people.
Perfect. So, and you guys, of course, I will link that in the show notes, so you can go check Abbie out. Just like you're saying about me, I'd like to return the same to you. So whenever I think about you, I always have a big smile on my face. So you're definitely one of my favorite people that I've encountered on this journey, and I'm so thankful that that we have met. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I appreciate the information you've shared. I think it's really timely, and we can apply this to our day-to-day life as we're dealing with difficult customers, as we're just going through life, because we all need a little more joy. And remember, joy is not something that necessarily going to come natural to you. It is something we need to work at, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anya.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.